Welcome back to Dark Side Deep Dive. I'm your host.
Welcome back to Dark Side Deep
George
Dive.
Wade.
And I'm your host, Chris Giluli. Glee. Yep. Good afternoon to everyone listening to the show.
Good afternoon to everyone except the writers of Kenobi.
Yeah, honestly. Good afternoon to everyone except for you guys, because
Joby Harold.
Joby Harold? What else has Joby Harold done? Because has he done anything good? Because if he has done nothing good and this is what we got.
Latest project is the upcoming film Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
This is not a good start.
Executive produced John Wick 3.
Army of the Dead, which I heard was not actually that good.
Executive produced Edge of Tomorrow. I heard that was good.
Oh, guess what else Joby Harold is doing?
What?
The Flash movie.
Classic. Oh, it all comes together. Okay. Time is a flat circle.
Yep. All right.
See, Awake. That Robin Hood. Who does in that?
Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow, I heard, is actually not that
bad. King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword. I heard that. I think that tanked. Anyway.
So that's a quick hint into how we feel about Kenobi. But let's go through this past week's comic book and movie news that we have, sent to each other on Instagram DMs, while I avoid any shitty memes that Chris has sent me in the past week.
Yep.
All right. First thing was the interview from Thor: Love and Thunder with Taika Waititi, where the nude scene of Thor, not fully nude, obviously, it's a Marvel movie. We're just going to get Chris Hemsworth's voluptuous ass in a scene.
I thought we talked about this one.
Did we talk about this one?
I thought so.
Maybe.
When did
Is that not what this was? I was kind of looking at it, and that's the first thing I remember. Maybe I'm repeating myself.
When was
but
that
honestly,
from?
It's Chris.
When did we send that? Because if that was...
No. Oh, you know what this video is? Now that I'm rewatching it, this post. This is the one that shows the Celestials are in Thor 4. The one that I sent you last Monday. Mm-hmm. So there's a scene. We've already talked about Thor's ass, but you can't blame me for wanting to bring up Chris Hemsworth's ass again.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Understandable.
There's that. So there's a scene in this kind of short minute-long trailer that they've shown that shows Thor's goat boat being pulled by the two goats into what seems like Olympus, the same place that we're getting this Pantheon of Gods scene and Meeting of the Gods or whatever. They're flying into it with the goat boat and kind of around into this gold circle, and around the corners from that gold circle, two Celestials actually kind of peer around it and look at the goat boat come through. So the Celestials are possibly involved in this Pantheon of Gods, which could kind of mean that this Pantheon of Gods is a lot bigger than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just kind of the Earth-related religious gods like Zeus and Thor and Bast from Wakanda, but it may also include people like the Celestials and, I don't know, whoever else they want to put in there. So that's really interesting to me that they're being put in there. But their design just fits so well with what Taika Waititi and James Gunn as well have gone for, with really accurately recreating those original Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, all of those original comic book drawings. So that's really cool. Excited! I'm really excited for that movie. We're so close to it. I've heard so many good things about it. And since the world premiere has happened in the past week, I've heard a lot of people really like Thor's story. Not just necessarily the movie, but the actual story for the character is really, really good. I've heard some things some people find it to be better than Ragnarok, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so Thor has had a great story in the last, I would say, in Ragnarok, Infinity War, like Infinity War, Ragnarok, Endgame, like all of those, he's had a really great story. You don't really tend to see a redemption arc from a superhero god or god superhero. But
Yeah,
but that's what he's going through, and I think that is really interesting to see. And he's a great character. And with the Guardians and Core, like it's just so many fun, lovable characters there that I think are just going to make the movie great.
I've also heard that his chemistry with the Mighty Thor, with Jane Foster, Natalie Portman, is one of the really good aspects of the movie as well, which is obviously would have been something that's really important, as she's kind of going to be probably a bigger character going forward with, and she's probably going to appear more. So yeah, seeing the Mighty Thor and we were both a bit iffy on Natalie Portman coming back, just because she didn't come back for Endgame to re-record her lines. And I don't know, I didn't really love her coming back, but clearly it's something that has worked in their advantage. So really excited for that to come out on July 8th. I'm going to see it very soon after that. It's not going to be something that I see on opening night, purely just because of my availability with work. I'm going to go see it soon after that. I'll probably see it. I'll see it the Monday or Tuesday after it comes out, and we will talk about that on this show, because with how good I'm expecting this to be and how much it seems to be living up to its expectations, it'll be a good talk.
I think so. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. I think it's also going to set the stage for the rest of this phase of Marvel, or at least close the book on Thor. Like it's going to. I think it's going to do both.
This feels like it's Thor's midlife crisis. That's what this feels like, and they're doing it in such a good way. And I don't necessarily know about setting up the next phases going into 5 and 6 and the next big villain. However, it totally could, because Kevin Feige has said that the next large Marvel MCU villain is going to show up or be kind of introduced in the next couple months, and whether that means they're going to come out and say who it is, or whether that means it's going to show up in Thor 4, because Thor 4 is really the only thing coming out that I could think would have such a large villain, something to be on comparison with Thanos, because She-Hulk is coming out in August, but I don't think that would have a villain the size of Thanos.
Right. No.
Definitely not. So it's interesting. Really excited for that movie, and we'll see how that goes on or around July 8th for both of us. Coming up next, we finally have Darth Vader in Fortnite. As Kenobi ends, Darth Vader's in Fortnite. I don't know, his lightsaber in the game's kind of mid, but the show itself is kind of mid, so it's pretty accurate. Yeah, not really. Not much to say about that, honestly.
Yeah, it feels like
we'll get to that later.
It feels like we haven't had a lot of news this week.
Yeah,
not compared to most weeks.
Yeah, the next thing after that is MCU's next big saga will be revealed soon. So that's where I said in Thor 4, or it's their Disney Plus Day announcement in September, which I feel like it fits more for it to be the Disney Plus Day announcement, because I don't know how Thor would really set that up with Gore, unless it was going to be Null and the symbiotes, which is directly related to Thor or to Gore, and who's obviously the villain of Thor 4, which I don't know if that'd be sick if it was. I would think that's so cool if it was going to be Null and we were going to get the symbiote story,
right? But
I don't think we will. So we'll see. Oh, there's something else, something I didn't like immediately after that. Sony and their lovely universe of things that shouldn't exist and movies that shouldn't exist, besides Morbius, because it's Morbin time, and that's a absolute cinematic masterpiece, and I don't even need to have watched it to know it is. But besides Morbius, whoever Aaron Taylor Johnson had an interview with, he was talking about Kraven the Hunter. And he said, he's just a hunter. a human with conviction, an animal lover, and protector of the natural world. Which prompted my immediate reaction of, please stop making the villains into heroes for no reason.
Yeah, like it's okay for the villains to be evil. Like,
yeah, please let Spider-Man's best villains be Spider-Man's best villains. Kraven, he's a hunter, yes. Obviously, he said that sentence, right? It's not hard when it's in the name. Kraven, he is always hunting something bigger. He's trying to be the best hunter in the world and trying to prove himself as being this top dog of the world. So he hunts all these animals down, and then he comes to New York because his next hunt is going to be the Spider-Man, and that's why he shows up. So to have him say he's an animal lover and a protector of the natural world, it makes me interested for what the story of this movie is, because like, are a couple lions going to get like kidnapped and be taken to a zoo, and is he just going to go on a murder spree to save the lions?
Right, like you can't really call yourself a protector of the natural world while actively seeking it out and killing it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So, I don't know. I just want Spider-Man's villains to be Spider-Man's villains.
I agree.
Spider-Man's villains are not Spider-Man's villains. Something funny that happened late after that. This is also on Tuesday. Multiverse of Madness was still in the top 5 at the box office this past weekend, a month and a half in, a little bit over that. And it was funny because these box office numbers came in literally the day before it dropped on Disney+. So it still was made $4.2 million over last weekend, and it dropped on Disney Plus immediately after that. So that's interesting to me.
More like multiverse of midness. Boom.
How many times are you going to say that on this podcast? Because I think this is at least the twice. The twice. This is at least the second time the twice. This is at least the second time you've done that.
I think you've said the twice more than I've said multiverse of midness.
The twice. IGN's ratings are so broken at this point.
Oh,
whoever
absolutely.
rates things for IGN, like...
Well,
I don't know what they're on sometimes, because they give everything a 7. They gave like every episode of Loki a 7 and then proceeded to give the Kenobi finale a 9, probably because he said the thing.
Yeah, he did say the thing.
He did say
I
the
think
thing.
A big thing to remember about anything really, any sort of website or TV channel or whatever, is that they're making headlines. They want people to talk about it. And it's like those like investor personalities that you see on like CNBC or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, like, should I like follow their advice? You have to remember, they're entertainers. Same with IGN. They're doing it for clicks. Like, they want you to go, I don't think it was a 9.
It increases interactions with the account. It increases the way the account gets out. Yeah.
Right.
And even if you take a step below that and you're like, it's not even... they might not even be doing it for clicks, but it's still going to be someone else's opinion that is not yours.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a review of someone that is going to have a different opinion than you. And if the person that reviewed this really was a Star Wars fan and really loved Kenobi and loved seeing Kenobi fight Vader and immediately gave this a 9 seconds after they watched it, which I'm not going to lie, that might have been my immediate reaction too. It was my immediate reaction after watching their fight, and then the episode continued and slowly went down from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just what happens. But yeah, IGN gave every episode of Loki a 7, and Loki is noticeably better than the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Within its own story, within everything else.
100%.
A little bit of... Go ahead.
The biggest issue with Kenobi was the pacing. it's like it was so slow for 3-4 episodes, and then episodes 5 and 6 like really picked up. Like things started happening. We saw action, and now it's over.
5 and 6 feel like if those could have been a good show if you had those kind of, you know, if the show followed the story and the ideas of 5 and 6 and kind of built around that direction, could have been really good.
Yep.
But it just didn't, and it kind of suffered. It has a WandaVision problem. It just didn't do enough in the beginning. It was too slow, and they shoved everything into the end, and what they were trying to do with it anyway wasn't great. WandaVision's still better than Kenobi.
I don't know. I think they're very similar.
I agree they are very similar.
Which is sad.
Apparently,
it's sad because like I feel like WandaVision was like, oh look, there's like a show on Disney Plus, like a Marvel TV show on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
wow.
that was.
And then Kenobi, we were like, we need this. We were expecting like the Mandalorian kind of quality.
It's something that we had been waiting nearly 20 years for.
Pretty much, yeah, 20 years, 17 to be exact.
To see 17 Ewan McGregor from
as Kenobi again. Wow.
17 from episode 3, and it had been rumored. It literally had been rumored since The Force Awakens came out. Because as soon as that came out, there were already rumors that one of the Solo films, like when they did Rogue One and Solo, that one of those movies was going to be Kenobi.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and it was essentially. It was confirmed that we were going to get something relating to Ewan McGregor coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It just was kind of a question of when and what it would be, and this is what we got, and I really wish we were still waiting for it, because that was honestly more enjoyable.
This TV show could have been a movie. I think it would have been better suited as a movie.
Yeah.
Because how many new characters, like totally new characters were there? The Inquisitors were new, but not, I don't think they were like difficult to explain, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like Kenobi, young Leia, young Luke, Owen Lars, Beru, like these are all characters we know. Like we didn't need 3 episodes to set the stage, you know?
Mm-hmm. Run through some more quick news because we both really want to talk about.
No. Rest in peace. Snow speeder driver Wade. Shout out. Pour one out for the homie.
Pouring out for the homie Wade.
Who we saw for 12 seconds.
Who we saw for a total of less than a minute of screen time, but they took the time to give him a name.
A name and a death scene. He must be related to someone. Like, that actor must be related to someone that worked on the show.
We could probably look that up and find it. It was someone's like son or nephew or whatever who wanted a role in Star Wars and wanted a name.
Yeah.
All right. This was something that came from comic book that I absolutely hated. They said Star Wars boss considering Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2 if fans really want more. Now, who they are referring to as Star Wars boss is Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever call her that again. She does not have the respect from me, and I feel a lot of Star Wars fans share this, to be considered the Star Wars boss, because a lot of things that Kathleen Kennedy has been behind and been a major part of have not been that great.
Mm-hmm.
The sequels were not that great. If you're going to call anyone Star Wars boss, you either only call George Lucas Star Wars boss, or you give that title to Dave Filoni.
Yep.
He is someone I would fully agree and fully get behind calling Star Wars boss. she also said if there's a real reason to make Obi-Wan Kenobi, then they would do it. And I would say there was a real reason to make season 1, and they did it, and they didn't do it well. So even if there's a real reason to do season 2, I would not be. Obviously, I'd be excited for it because I always am, but I would not be hopeful for it.
Mm-hmm.
I am always excited at the opportunity when something can be better. But with this, I would not be hopeful that it would actually be better. And it's another thing that they really. It sucks that Kenobi and Vader fought because they really can't fight again. Because if you have them fighting 3, 4, you have them fight in every season. If this goes for more seasons, the line. I'm fine with you throwing away a bit of a line and saying before when he says, when we last met, I was but a learner, now I am the master, in episode 4. You can get away with that when he's still, this is in the middle of training. He's 10 years in and there's another 10 left before episode 4. You could say he's still learning the ways of the dark side 10 years in, and another 10 years later, he has really mastered it.
Right.
You could say that maybe in that time he even has an apprentice, a secret apprentice that we don't know about that they could bring back and hopefully extremely nerf because because Starkiller was insanely powerful.
Oh, yeah.
But
they could not get away with
that
him in the canon.
Exactly. You could change that line to say he was referencing that he is literally a master now and he has a dark side Padawan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really mind throwing away one line that was written 45 years ago, or well, written even more than that was shown on film 45 years ago. If it's going to create a better universe and a better story, if you kind of disregard that. And that has happened before in Star Wars. They've kind of done things and they contradicted a little line here or there. It's just, they've already dueled once. They're not going to duel again in a year. They're not going to duel again every year until the next one, until 4, because that goes from the point where it's kind of changing the definition of the line to literally fully discrediting the line. They have dueled 9 times up to this point. They know each other very well. They know each other's fighting style very well. There's a point where it discounts the line for a better story, and there's a point where it discounts the line because they just kept doing more and they shouldn't have. And it discounts the story.
Because of money grabbing, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There was the line in the finale when Kenobi slices Vader's helmet. Opens it up. And you told me that there was the line that you didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And you watched it first, and then you told me this, and then I watched it, and I was like, I didn't really notice a certain line that stood out. And then you explained it to me, and I was like, yes, that is absolutely stupid line. Stupid.
Yeah. So we're going to get into Kenobi now. Because as you can tell from listening, we both do want to talk about it. We will continue to talk about Ms. Marvel next week because we're going to want the time to talk about Kenobi. Ms. Marvel is doing some pretty interesting things right now, so that's definitely going to get talked about next week. But from here on, we are talking about Kenobi, we are talking about the show, and we are talking about the series finale. So if anyone has not seen it yet, obviously go watch it and come back. And here's how we feel about it. So, I am just going to come from the start because this is something that bleeds in from episode 5. I am okay with them saying that getting stabbed by a lightsaber is non-lethal when we've seen Darth Maul come back from getting cut in half. You can say that the biggest reason Qui-Gon dies is because he is not able to get help immediately. He's not able to be brought to a bacta tank and saved. That could be your best reasoning for why Qui-Gon dies, but no one else does. But when Reva gets stabbed at the end of episode 5, and is walking around with just like some bandages over her abdomen in episode 6 is mildly infuriating at this point.
It's more than that.
Because you are now saying that Qui-Gon had no reason to die.
Right, like...
Because
How big would you say, like, the blade of a lightsaber is across? Would you say it was, like, 2 inches in diameter? And
probably.
I figure it just makes a clean hole straight through. You're telling me a 2-inch hole straight through. She just wraps herself up, just walks away.
Yeah, just walk it off. Just walk off a lightsaber hole.
Right in the abdomen.
It's Qui-Gon died for this. He died for this. He died for this, and that's what causes this entire story of Star Wars. Because I am someone who firmly believes that if Qui-Gon had lived, Anakin would not have turned to the dark side the way that he did. I firmly believe that because Qui-Gon had so much faith in Anakin. So when that's how he died, by being stabbed in the chest, and we have one instance where someone could just be force healed to close it, and now we have an instance where someone just walks it off. Just walks away.
I mean, we had 2 survivors of stabbed by a lightsaber in the same show. The same show. 3 episodes apart.
This is one of those things where you can't. You're ruining the rest of the show by the rest of the movies by doing this for me because. Again, I don't care if things get changed later on down the road. Things change all the time. Technology changes. You could say they have figured out a way to stop this. But she just walks away and proceeds through the rest of this episode.
Yep. I'm not going to be able to watch The Phantom Menace anymore because I'm just going to watch it and think, he shouldn't have died. He shouldn't have died. Should have just force-healed him. Force-heal or just walk it off, Qui-Gon. Suck it up,
He should have just
Buttercup.
walked it off, buddy. Like... It makes Qui-Gon. It makes him look like such a bitch. He just looks like a little bitch. I'm sorry, that's just what he looks like, and there's no other way to put it. It discounts Qui-Gon's character. It just does.
Yeah.
Now you can say he could have just walked it off.
You have Reva, who's a youngling turned.
Who's a youngling, untrained youngling. Kind of similar to Rey, force healing, and
turned into a whiny Inquisitor.
Yeah, the worst Inquisitor that they have, according to the true Grand Inquisitor.
And she just eats it. She just eats it. She gets stabbed in the chest and just eats it. And Qui-Gon, who's a Jedi Master, dies.
And we will come back to Qui-Gon later because
that's true.
This is something that is also very annoying, disappointing, however you want to put it to me, because full spoilers, Qui-Gon shows up at the end of this show, and that also pisses me off. But let's get through the rest of the episode first. The real thing, the fight between Vader. That's the entire middle of this episode. It's not a bad fight. I will say it's not a bad fight.
No, it's a good fight. Although
go ahead.
I did notice during the fight just how Disney has changed lightsaber physics, if that makes sense. We brushed on this briefly, but like Vader's fighting Obi-Wan, and they're between like these 2 like rock pillars, and one of them misses a swing and it hits the rock and it just bounces off. It's like, no, like it should cut into the rock or straight through it. Like it shouldn't just bounce off like it's a stick. Like I know the prop is a stick, but like come on, like you're ruining the immersion in a TV. Like that's what people talk about when they're talking about video games, ruining the immersion. When you have like 30 weapons on you, but like we're talking about a TV show produced by the largest entertainment company in the world, probably. I mean, Disney, yeah,
with what they own, everything they own, yeah,
they gotta be. And like, I was like, oh, it bounced off.
It ruins how imposing lightsabers should be.
Mm-hmm.
They can cut through almost anything except for Beskar, and even then, like, Beskar's not fully resistant to it, as we saw with the Beskar spear. It's still heated up from the saber.
Yeah.
At the end of Mandalorian Season 2. And now it's randomly bouncing off of rocks, off of some rocks, cutting through others.
And like,
because the lightsaber cuts through a rock on Octo in Episode 8, so Disney clearly knows that a lightsaber can cut through a rock.
Right. Like, and how many people did we see in this show that just got like nicked up? That just got like a little cut here, a little slice there.
Yeah.
Like, you should be getting dismembered.
But we saw a guy get cut in half in the show as well, so why can't anyone else lose a limb?
Exactly.
It's amazingly inconsistent. It is amazingly inconsistent for the plot, because they just want to have a lightsaber fight, but do something really cool in it, and they can't they don't want to think around and try and do this in a way that works with the world. They just want to do what they think is cool in the shot.
Right. Exactly.
And what I really don't like about this fight, one of the biggest things for me, the prequel fights, they're filmed so wide. They're such wide shots. You are fully watching every beat of the fight. You're not cutting around between perspectives. And I'm not saying cutting into someone's face or showing that is bad, because it can do some really good things for the emotion. But the majority of the fight, I should be able to see the majority of the fight.
Right.
And when you're coming off of the last time we see a true fight from Obi-Wan, it's on Mustafar. These wide shots with this huge lava planet and everything around them's crumbling, and they are fighting so angrily and forcefully at each other out of one's disappointment towards his Padawan and out of a Padawan's anger towards his master. There's so much depth to that fight. And Mustafar is almost reacting to Anakin, because as Mustafar and the mining planets or whatever they are on, as that is falling apart and the lava is starting to shoot up and Anakin's getting angrier and angrier towards Obi-Wan until it reaches the point where I guess you could essentially say he literally becomes a part of Mustafar, which is a dark side planet, by getting burned by it.
Mm-hmm.
Where they are fighting, how they are fighting, and what they are doing is so important to the story that it gives the fight a story. If you just watch the fight alone, you can watch this evolution of the fight, and you can tell that Anakin is getting angrier, and that reflects on their environment.
Right.
And now you look at Kenobi, and it's really cool to get the glow of the sabers. That's something you don't have in the prequels, just because of the effects at the time. Mm-hmm. And I love the lightsaber effects now, because you have the glow of the lightsaber, because it creates light. You have the glow of the saber on someone's face, on their body. You have the little like flickers in the saber that they had from the way they were filmed in the original trilogy that was missing in the prequels. It makes them look very real. But you don't need to film in a gray environment, really dark, really flat, really gray environment filled with these really tall rocks that make it really hard to give you a proper wide shot of the fight. Pick your environment better.
Right. That's a great point.
It's not on a planet that we know of already. It's just on some random planet.
Yeah.
So of all random planets you could have chose, you made it gray with tall spires of rock that block any good angle you could have on filming this fight.
Yeah.
have this fight happen right in front of the rocks, because before they even go into all of these pointy rocks, they're standing on a completely like open, flat area.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us something. It
just wasn't,
such.
it was such
Go
like
ahead.
a I don't know if melodramatic is the right word, but the setting was just bland. It was so bland. I mean, it's always going to come back to Mustafar. That duel, like,
We are shown
It's
Vader
perfect.
on Mustafar.
it's perfect. That is a perfect duel. The setting, dialogue, choreography, characters. It's perfect. But this just missed so much. The setting, blah. The choreography, blah. The dialogue, oh, we'll get to the dialogue.
'Cause
And
we've got some, and
what was the fourth one? Setting,
setting, dialogue,
choreography,
the choreography,
and
the environment. I guess we said that already?
it's like, I don't know. I don't remember what I said.
It's just, and this is not to say that I hate everything about the fight and about the show, because there are some really good moments in this. This could have been one of the best fights in Star Wars, because one thing that has always been lacking for me in fights in Star Wars is the use of the Force while dueling.
Yes.
Obi-Wan, you can see it in this. Darth Vader fights with a saber in one hand. Obi-Wan primarily fights with a saber in two. With how strong Vader is in the Force, that gives him such an advantage to have the open hand to use the Force. Throw things at each other while you're dueling, and they do that here. This is something that they start to do in this show, and I love it, because it adds another level to the fights that can make them more complicated and more difficult, and can show you how skillful they could be with how the training they had. You can see Vader can stop a lightsaber with his one hand. That can free up his other hand that has the saber, which means now Obi-Wan has to adapt and change his fighting style, because he fights with two, and now he's got to lose a hand to defend himself from Vader's blade. And then you can have a scene that now parallels their fight on Mustafar, where they're fighting, and there's a scene where their hands are kind of close to each other, and they're using the Force against each other and blow each other back. You could have that same scene here, where Kenobi now has to adapt, and they essentially blow each other back after trying to repel each other's lightsabers. Or you have Kenobi have to kind of drop back and dodge it, and kind of you could almost show fear on his face that Vader almost actually just killed him. That he was just seconds away from dying.
Mm-hmm.
And that is another thing, thinking about when I said that he could have been seconds away from dying. The fight doesn't have any true stakes. Obviously, neither of them can die because they show up 9 years from now. But that doesn't mean you can't bring them both to a state where they are like barely walking away from this fight. And Vader is barely walking away from this fight in the end. And Kenobi does walk away. And I think the second half of this fight is pretty good. It's solid.
The only thing when you talk about them using the Force during a duel, and they did it well in this, but it always seems like they got halfway through writing the duel, and then one of the writers goes, should we do something with the Force? And they're like, oh yeah, let's have this guy do this with the Force, and the other guy will like counter it with the Force or do it back.
Yeah,
and that is
and they just go back to
for the fight. Yeah,
I think it works out. Like, you could have it. This could also evolve the fight as well. They're starting with saber to saber because the saber is the easiest way to do it. Because the Force, you have to exert more energy to use the Force than you do having to fight with a lightsaber. So they're trying to be a bit conservative with it to not tire themselves out, as this could be a really long fight. And then one of them is like, all right, I need to get an upper hand. So they start using the Force. And the other one has to block it. And they start using the Force back. And then all of a sudden, you can tell that they are starting to drastically get tired now. They're getting tired way faster than they were at the start of this fight. And now they're fighting and they're kind of just throwing themselves at each other because they're really dragging through this fight now because they've been using the Force and trying to stop each other. And you can have it where Kenobi is so exhausted, he can barely walk away from this fight. But the only reason he's even able to walk away is because he got the advantage on Vader by opening up the mask. And Vader is now unable to breathe properly, and he's really like struggling, and that's the only way he gets away.
Yeah, you should see, like, George, if I put you in a fight to the death, I would expect you, whether or not you win or lose. Actually, I mean, if you lose, then never mind. But
yeah,
no matter how well you walk away from it, even if you do survive, you should be exhausted for fighting for your life. And they just don't seem like they break a sweat.
It's not even just that. You're fighting for your life against the person you cared about so much that you watched fall apart in front of your eyes as he fell to the dark side and did the one thing you were supposed to stop him from doing. And he's back and he's killed so many people and he's now hunting you. There's so much behind this fight that was just, it did not feel like it had the same passion that episode 3's fight did, the Battle of the Heroes.
Right.
And I think I sent this to you before we started watching. There's someone who edited the Kenobi fight, this episode 6 fight, with the Battle of the Heroes in the background. And I think that would have been really cool to add. Not necessary. But it would have been cool because it is the Battle of the Heroes again.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same exact fight. It's the same exact fight they're going to have in episode 4 when Kenobi gives up and lets himself die. To have that paralleled here, you could have had the same parallels. You could have paralleled how, in the end, Kenobi still walks away victorious, leaving Vader to almost die. You have them just back and forth the whole time. But I just wish that they would use... If they have such well-composed music by John Williams that they would do something with it, as they had in episode 9, John Williams re-recorded Duel of the Fates for episode 9 and it was not used, and you hear the re-recording in the episode 9 Fates trailer. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called Fates.
Mm-hmm. And
they actually recently have now posted something for Kenobi using, again, Duel of the Fates. Which is just making me think about the fact that you have this music at your disposal. At least use something. Have something memorable playing over this fight, because the music helps set the tone too.
Right. Like,
when you hear Battle of the Heroes, you don't even need to see the fight to know that there is something really, really important happening in whatever scene this is too.
Dude, Duel of the Fates is just as important or iconic as the fight itself.
I would honestly say part of the reason Duel of the Fates is looked at as such a good fight is partially is the music.
So much that I mean, it's such a good soundtrack. Like, it's just phenomenal.
It is. It is a masterclass of fight scene scores of. At the end of the day, Star Wars is a space opera. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. To have this huge, loud music with the almost operatic chorus of voices in the background over top of such loud music and such intense music over a life or death battle is amazing. I love the prequels for its fights because the story is, or not even the story, but the acting sometimes is really not there. The dialogue is really not there in the prequels. But the fights, there's nothing I can really think of about the prequels duels that are bad. I love them. And Duel of the Fates is another one where the environment is key to the story. Where this duel happens is key to what happens in the story, what happens in Star Wars, and just key to the fight evolving. Mm-hmm. You get those laser doors in that fight as they're getting to wherever they are in Naboo. And that is the reason Qui-Gon dies.
Right.
Because Kenobi gets caught behind the laser door and he can't get to Darth Maul or to help him fight Darth Maul in time, and Qui-Gon gets stabbed. Now, was there totally a force power used earlier in that movie that could have gotten him through the door fast enough? Yes. At the very beginning of the movie, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan both use force speed. I don't know why he didn't use it in that moment, but the environment is key to the story. And it helps progress the battle.
Yeah. There's lot.
Everything. They thought about everything going into those fights.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into them.
Yeah, the score, the choreography, the environment, and where they were going to be fighting, who they were fighting against, why they were fighting against them, what this fight meant. There's so much that goes into it that just we know it's there in Kenobi because we know the story, but it doesn't feel like they know.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like this is the fight. This doesn't feel like this is the fight for the first time in 10 years. This just feels like they've crossed paths and they have a little bit of a conflict right there, and Kenobi heads out. Now, let's get to my least favorite part of the duel. In what is one of, if not, it's not the best. I'm not going to say that. One of my favorite Vader scenes. Kenobi cuts off the left part of the Vader mask.
Very similar to the season 2 finale of Rebels.
Yes, just with the opposite eye.
Yeah. And you see
Rebels cuts the right side. Yeah, we get the left side.
Anakin
and you see
for a moment.
You see Anakin. You can tell it's Hayden Christensen in there, which is another thing I'll bring up later. Is the massive underuse of Hayden Christensen. But
yep,
you see Hayden Christensen under there, and you can hear Anakin's voice mixed with a super messed up robotic-ish voice modulator version of the Darth Vader voice.
Yeah, that was really good. The sound mixing on that was great.
This sounds like a monster.
Mm-hmm.
This does not even sound like Vader anymore. This just sounds... If you were to give anger a voice, it's almost like that. You have Anakin's voice and then a modulated version of that, and they're just yelling at Kenobi. It is there. That is something where I can feel the emotion behind that. I could feel the anger watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one line in this show that I wish was never said because it ruins Vader's motivations as a character entirely, not just in this show, in everything that Vader has been in following episode 3. At least anything that happens after this point.
Yeah. And
Kenobi is... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to explain it. So, Kenobi, slices the helmet open. I forget what Kenobi says. It's something along the lines of like, oh, I failed Anakin or whatever, like, you're lost or whatever. And then...
A very similar line to what he says in episode 3 of I failed you.
Yeah. And then Vader goes... Or maybe he said, like, I don't want to kill you, Anakin. I don't know.
No, it's not. I know it's not that.
Anyway.
But it's the Vader line.
Yeah.
That's the real
Yeah, the problem is the Vader line. And he says... He basically says, it's not your fault. You didn't kill Anakin. I did. And, like, that's dramatic, but...
Oh my god, it ruins his motivations.
In episode 3, when Anakin is burning on the volcanic sand...
And he screams, I hate you.
Right.
I literally... That scene has been ingrained in my mind since I first watched it, probably when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Oh my god!
However old I was.
Oh my god! Yes.
I can think of the exact way Hayden Christensen says the line in the film because it is so impactful, and the way he delivers that "I hate you" is so filled with hatred. It is a true I hate you. That is something where if anyone said I hate you like that to me, I would start questioning my entire life.
I would cry
over it.
Right there.
I would just cry on the spot. You could feel the hatred through the screen. And to have him now cut the mask open, he goes, "You didn't kill Anakin. I did." Half of Anakin's motivation was he feels like he did nothing wrong and that the Jedi didn't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
The Jedi didn't trust him. They didn't have the faith in him. He feels that Obi-Wan failed him. He should have been able to save Padme, and they weren't letting him. And they weren't.
I just remembered this. He tells Padme, he's like, I know there are things Obi-Wan isn't teaching me about the Force. I remember him saying that. He like, when Padme is like, Anakin, like, when they get to Mustafar and Padme's like, Anakin, like, don't do this. Don't kill younglings. And then Obi-Wan shows up and he's like, you turned her against me. He blames everything on Obi-Wan. Everything goes on Obi-Wan. And he's just like, nah, fam.
And by Vader, having him admit that he did this to himself, it discounts his entire reason for even being a Sith. Because if he realizes he did this to himself, he would also realize that Palpatine it's been manipulating him this whole time.
Yeah.
You can't have Anakin be self-realize that he's done this to himself and still continue on being this evil. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And yes, obviously this line is only said to give Obi-Wan the reason to tell Luke in episode 4 that Vader killed his father. But if I'm going to be honest, Kenobi could have said that regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
If Vader delivered this line. Because he did. Vader did kill Anakin. The Anakin that Obi-Wan knew when he left for Utapau, when he came back, this was a different person standing in front of him. This was not Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
You can justifiably say that he is a different person there. Vader killed Anakin. The goodness inside of him was killed by Vader. You could say that line regardless. You don't need Vader to outright say, I killed Anakin.
Yeah, like...
It ruins Vader's motivations. Vader is so angry because the Jedi failed him. He has literally started a galaxy-wide manhunt to kill every single one of them and personally supervises the Inquisitors to make sure that they find and kill every Jedi they can.
And why do we need a specific line to confirm a line that was in the original trilogy? I killed Anakin. You didn't kill Anakin. I did. Whatever. Why do we need that to confirm a line? But we can just have them fight twice to muddy the meaning of another iconic line from the same movie.
Yeah.
Like, why choose one over the other?
Very iconic. Why choose the less important one?
Absolutely. Right. Like, that's
one is a line of Obi-Wan kind of you could say that's how Obi-Wan views the situation. The other line is quite literally partially explaining the continuity of Star Wars.
Right.
It's a little bit more important than the throwaway line of "he killed your father," which was true already. It was already true. Mm-hmm. We didn't need it to be said. We all agreed with the line. God. And the fact that the episode has even more things after this that are upsetting, that's really it. This is what is upsetting about the fight. It does not have the gravity it should. Vader delivers one of the worst lines that could have ever been said in Star Wars for the plot. But there are some really good moments in it. They have really good usage of the Force during a fight, with Vader hitting the ground and collapsing the floor under Kenobi. They have such good uses of the Force in it. Everything else around that Vader scene besides that line is fantastic and you can feel the hatred coming from him. It's great. But a multi-billion-dollar company could have put more effort into this.
Right.
If I can think of this within what? We're recording this on Sunday. It's been
4 days?
4 days since the episode came out, and we can already think of this ourselves, and partially influenced by just watching other people's ideas and reviews on YouTube. But a lot of this, Oh,
I haven't.
A lot of this I had thought of after watching it, especially that Vader line. I obviously I've seen some things other people have said. A lot of this is my own. These are my personal opinions. I do think these myself. Chris obviously thinks these himself because I watch more YouTube videos than he does, so he's definitely thinking these on his own. I can confirm that. It just sucks that I thought of this in 4 days, and they spent at least 7 years with the idea for this project.
Right.
At least the idea for a Kenobi project. And yeah, this could have been so much better as a movie because we spend 2 episodes. We rescue Leia in episode 2 and then proceed to rescue Leia again in episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
We rescue Leia twice. Why do we rescue Leia twice? Why do we do that? Why do we need to rescue her twice? That's so stupid.
You know what I watched recently that it sort of reminds me of? The Clone Wars movie special. Where it just has it almost plays out like a long version of that. Where there's such different, distinct sections. You got the Battle of Christophsis. Then they're going for the baby hut, and then
it's essentially like what, 4 episodes put together into a movie?
Yeah.
I think it's 3 or 4. I think 4. Yeah. No, this just... It feels like they had to give Obi-Wan side quests to go fight Vader.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like this was building... This doesn't feel like the story built to a fight with Vader. It felt like the story... They had to get to the fight somehow, so they just threw some other things in there and gave us a young Leia and a young Luke in there as well. By the way, young Luke looks like a really bratty kid. Nothing against the child actor. I love child actors, and it's a very hard thing to do to be a child actor because it can go so poorly in a lot of cases. And young Leia is fantastic, but the such little use of young Luke kind of doesn't help. And I don't know.
The kid just has a sort of look.
The kid doesn't look like
kick him.
You would picture a young Luke to look like. He looks confused and a little stupid. I'm sorry. This is really mean. This is really mean. We're gonna act like that was not just said. I'm sorry. I'm sorry nothing. This is not the actor's fault. Wow, that was. We're getting a little too angry about this after this fight. Going back to Tatooine though. Reva shows up on Tatooine. She finds out that Luke exists and is going to Tatooine and is going to go kill Luke for some reason, which that has nothing to do with what her original motivations were in the first place, but she's trying to go kill Luke now, I guess.
Well, she wanted revenge on Anakin, so she finds out that Luke is Anakin's kid, and I guess. But I feel like that assumes that Anakin knows that Luke is his kid. Which he doesn't.
No, I don't think this draws that assumption.
Because I
don't think this is.
Suppose this is a weird example, but suppose you.
I'm not.
God! Suppose you have.
I don't like that you started this with saying it's a weird example and then said, "Suppose you."
All right. Suppose you have a one-night stand. Never see the woman again. And then, she gets pregnant. She gives birth. You never find out that she has a kid. And the kid, dies in a car crash. That doesn't affect you. In, any way.
No. It doesn't.
So, if she goes
to my girlfriend who is not listening, this wouldn't happen. Just had to put that out there. It's purely an example. To my girlfriend who's not listening and will never know that this exists.
You wouldn't make her die of sadness? Are you sure?
Make her die of sadness? God, no.
Get her pregnant and then...
You're breaking my Anakin!
Force choke her and then
my heart!
Make her die of sadness.
Nope. Wouldn't happen in real life. Sorry. I mean, if I had the Force, I would probably not use it. I would do some... I'd use it to get the remote when it's kind of far away.
Right.
That's the number one thing everyone thinks of. When you're sitting there, the remote's just out of reach and everyone's like, damn, bro, I wish the Force was real.
Yeah. Right?
I would totally use it to try and pick something up and throw it at someone. But dude, it would be so convenient. It would be so nice. I would do everything I could to not lose my connection to the Force.
Dude, I would immediately... If I had the Force, the first thing I'd do is set up a mini fridge, in the room where I watch TV. And then I could just get a soda.
Well, you don't even need to use a mini fridge. You could just, do it from the actual fridge as long as it was in view.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe if you're, familiar enough with the setting that you don't need to look, you can just sort of feel.
Maybe. I'd assume so. If I know my house well enough, I could use the Force to if I know where my toothbrush is sitting right now, in a little holder next to my sink, I could lift it up from here just knowing that that's where it is and feel the connection to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Anyway,
that's at least a better use of the Force than what they do sometimes, Force healing. Okay. Reva goes to kill Luke for some reason, even though Vader doesn't know that Luke is his son, and it would be completely unimpactful to him if he ever even found out. Reva is fighting. This was really surprising. Owen Lars he's Joel Edgerton is a great actor. He stands up to Obi-Wan a little bit. Aunt Beru is a badass.
Hell yeah.
Aunt Beru is if we're about to get hunted, we need to get high ground right now, and pulls out a gun. A blaster.
Yeah. She immediately gets the strap.
I also am... I don't think Owen knew that gun was hidden there. Because he looked at her and goes, "What are you doing?" And then she pulls out the blaster, and then he's he looks confused.
Mm-hmm.
I think Beru was fully hiding a blaster in their house without Owen knowing. So, Aunt Beru is just actually kind of a badass. Anyway, they start this fight, and they know they're Reva's going to come when it's dark and the twin suns have set. So, yeah, they end up fighting her. She knocks him over. Luke is running. He runs from her, runs into a canyon. Another thing I hate, I've seen so many scenes of people running from people who have the Force. Dude, you could just use the Force to stop them.
Pick them up. Literally. It's
even if you don't have to pick them up, you could just put something in front of them. You're in a desert. Build up a bunch of sand in front of the kid. Make the sand quicksand. You can do that with the Force.
Yeah.
There's so many things you could do to stop him. Why are you just letting him run away? Anyway, young Luke runs into a canyon. She's chasing him, and she's got the ability to kill him, and then she's like, it's flashing back to her childhood as a youngling, and she chooses not to kill him. Which, I don't get her character motivation for even going to kill Luke. I even less get her character motivation for her reasons to not kill the kid. Because her reason for not killing the kid was because she, as a kid, saw Anakin kill everyone else. But, like, it's not like the kid has seen her kill anyone else. And it's also not like if she kills the kid's not going to turn into her anyway, because I'm not going to lie, if Anakin just killed her on the spot, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So, yeah, weird stuff. I don't know. Reva's character motivation was really cool going up to episode 5, having that be her motivation. But her character motivation from episode 5 does not translate to what she does in episode 6.
Yeah.
I like
her
character motivation through 5. It's just what she does in 6 doesn't make sense. Anyway, Obi-Wan comes... Go ahead.
So Obi-Wan is like... I don't know how he realizes that... Does Owen send like a message to him or something? I don't know.
I don't remember, but...
Or does he just sense it through the Force? I don't know. But Obi-Wan is like, oh no, Luke is in danger. So he goes to Tatooine. And meanwhile, after Reva, like, knocks the kid unconscious and then comes to the realization that, like, killing kids is a bad thing to do.
Finally, after watching all of her friends die, and I guess she just decided it was going to be a good idea to kill more.
Yeah. Obi-Wan shows up, and he's like... So, he sees Owen and Beru, like, calling out, Luke, Luke. Obi-Wan shows up, and he's like, where's Luke? Do you think
Clearly
they know?
They don't
Do you
know.
think they know? What are we doing
To
here?
be fair, it's a bit of a stupid line, but I mean, I feel like that's something that happens in every movie.
Yeah.
Like, anything where someone's lost and you have people calling their name, someone else who's important to the story walks up and is like, where are they?
Although, like, when you're looking for something and somebody's like, oh, well, where did you leave it? It's like, well, if I knew that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be
Where
able
did you
to-
last have it? Well, if I knew where I last had it, I'd have it right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so Obi-Wan gets there, blah, blah, and then Reva, like, after knocking the kid unconscious, just carries him back and just, like, lays him on the ground. And they're just like, oh, thanks for our kid back.
Yeah, it's like
what? Get the blaster. Like, she still kidnapped and knocked your kid unconscious. Like,
okay, she didn't kidnap him. The kid ran.
Right, all right. True.
She didn't kidnap
True.
him. She did chase him to murder him, though.
She was
so
planning
even
it,
if
yes.
she brought him back, I'd kind of, you got the blaster. No. But anyway, Kenobi's there. She drops the kid, and then she just doesn't she just start crying?
She just like sits there. She takes her lightsaber and puts it on the sand.
And it's kind of her saying, "I'm done as an Inquisitor," and Kenobi's like, "Well, I think he kind of says something like, you choose your own path now."
Or I think he said you're free. You're like finally free or something. I don't know.
Something like that. Something along the lines of, you're free, you choose your own path. Something relating to a person being freed from their anger.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we could see Reva again, but I don't know. Her involvement in the show just felt unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because her story doesn't connect well to Kenobi anyway, because she's mad at Kenobi for failing her, but then she wants to really kill Anakin anyway. I don't know. I feel like they really were desperately looking for a way to connect her to Kenobi or Anakin, and they did not find a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say her motivation isn't good, but her connection to Kenobi specifically isn't good. It's not a solid connection. Then we get a bit of a jump. Obi-Wan's got his box of stuff moving out of his cave. Because it's moving day, I guess. I guess he had enough stuff to fill up a box in that cave. He's riding on the camel thing. I forget what they're called. Past the homestead, and Owen walks up to him and is like, "Hey, you want to meet the boy? You don't know who that boy is. You want to meet Luke. guess what? Guess what, guys? We get the line. He does the thing.
He said the thing.
He gets off the camel.
He said the thing.
He takes the Skyhopper with a T something Skyhopper toy that 16. We see Luke use in episode. Yes, T-16 Skyhopper toy that we see Luke use in episode 4. Walks up over to Luke. Hello there. Hands him. That was really bad. Hello there, but hello there. Hands him the T-16 Skyhopper. Whoa! He said the line, guys. Why does this? It like that. That hurt a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, because it felt like they had spent this entire show building to him fighting Vader and then saying hello there again.
Right.
Which, obviously, yeah, hello there is kind of his line, but it was just annoying when this show has no other, like, gravity of the... Honestly, it fit, though. It fit. Nothing in the show had the same gravity as anything it was kind of reflecting with what happened in episode 3. And this hello there was kind of just didn't feel like a huge thing. I mean, it is his first time meeting Luke, so it's something. It's something. But, I don't know, this hello there just is like, haha, he did the thing. But he did the thing and I hated everything else, so it just makes the thing feel half-assed and upsetting. A little bit boring.
Also, why did, like, Owen suddenly have a change of heart and decide that Kenobi should, like, meet Luke? Because
exactly, he didn't do anything different.
He did nothing. He did nothing. Reva chased him away and then brought him back, and then Kenobi just showed up.
He just stood there.
Yeah, like...
That's all he did. What? I guess you could say that Owen realized that they kind of do need Kenobi to be there more actively after being hunted like this.
Probably.
And I guess knowing that Luke's identity could be out there now, say that, okay, it might be a good thing for Luke to get to know the guy who's going to help protect him.
Yeah.
That would be the only reasonable thing I could think of. That makes a bit of sense. But, you know, that's a connection you can't really draw very easily through the show. You kind of have to think about it a bit later. But then Kenobi gets on camel thing and starts riding off into the sunset. Because it's riding off into the sunset. Guess who shows up, guys? It's Qui-Gon. It's Qui-Gon. Liam Neeson's back. He looks at Kenobi and kind of just goes, well, I didn't show up to you before because you weren't connected to the Force enough. What a dreadful waste of Liam Neeson on top of their waste of Hayden Christensen.
Yep. Liam Neeson is just like... Kenobi's like, oh, it's about time he showed up.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, Kenobi, that is the right answer. It is about time he showed up because he should have been a main character of this show.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to hear what Qui-Gon had to say watching Kenobi wallow in self-pity for 10 years over the fact that he failed.
I mean, from the moment that Kenobi takes Anakin as his Padawan, Kenobi spends the rest of his time in the Jedi Order training Anakin or with Anakin. And it's all for Qui-Gon. Like, that was Kenobi's life, was passing on, like, Qui-Gon's legacy. And he's just like...
dying
It's about time he showed up.
His dying words were asking Obi-Wan to train the boy.
Mm-hmm. And then Qui-Gon's just like, well, I was here the whole time. You just couldn't feel me. Or whatever. And it's like...
It's so annoying because if Qui-Gon were a main character of this show could have been monumentally better. You could have had Qui-Gon literally sitting there looking at Kenobi and goes, just like, stop being so sad to yourself. It's not going to save anyone at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention he probably would have looked at Obi-Wan and said, it's not your fault.
Right.
He probably would have looked at Kenobi and said, you did nothing wrong. The Jedi failed you too.
Yeah,
That is
Qui-Gon
exactly-
absolutely would have said that, because Qui-Gon didn't like the Jedi.
He didn't like the Jedi Order either. That's why he was
the
never a
Council
master.
or anything. Yeah.
He could have taken the rank of master. He could have been one, and he never was. He chose not to be. He actively did things that upset the council by taking Anakin when he already had Kenobi and kind of pushing Kenobi off to say he's ready to be a Jedi Knight, which was true. And yeah, he probably would have looked at Kenobi and said, they failed you too. This is not on you. It is not your fault. They failed by underestimating Anakin. They were scared of him, and they let him fall to the dark side, and they let you take the blame for it.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been something he at least showed up and said, what was it, beginning of episode? Was it the beginning of episode 6? When he's sitting in the ship, like, alone? Or even, he sits in the cave and is trying to talk to Qui-Gon. But
there's a few
you could have had Qui-Gon show
moments.
up and say, you could have had the cave scene come after he gets the first call from
Bail
Organa, and Qui-Gon shows up and he's like, Qui-Gon, I don't know what I should do. I can't leave the boy here. And the line of, is your duty, like Bail says, your duty should be to the daughter too. That line would have been, it's good when Bail says it. If that line came from Qui-Gon, it would have just felt better. Because it could have been the start of Qui-Gon getting Obi-Wan to get over himself.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been kind of his first push of like, well, your duty is to the daughter as it is to the boy, the son.
It's to Padme.
Really,
in general,
really, that's who it is really to. It is to Padme that you will protect her children after she is dying. She keeps them away from Vader and protects them. And that should go for both. And Qui-Gon could look at him and say, you have made a promise, and the promise is not just to the boy. The boy will be okay. Because you also think about it, he leaves the daughter kind of alone with Organa, and yes, Organa is kind of up there on Alderaan. He's going to have more protection, but you leave him with two parents, you leave her with two parents, you're doing the same by leaving him with two parents.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Mentioning Bail Organa reminds me, we forgot a scene. I think it's after he meets Luke. He goes to Alderaan.
Oh yeah, he flies to Alderaan,
and this absolutely made my heart melt because he gave Leia a holster for a blaster earlier in the episode.
Uh-huh.
And she was like, what? Like, it's empty.
No, he gives her the holster then.
No, because I remember her putting it on. She put it on to go meet him. It was while he was on the ship with him.
Yes. Yeah.
Before he diverts.
Before he leaves for the Vader fight. Yeah.
And so he goes to Alderaan to meet Leia afterwards, and she's wearing the holster that he just gave her and the gloves that he bought her. And she was just like so proud to wear those and see him. And like my heart absolutely melted. I was like, oh my God. Like, oh, that was such a great moment.
Yeah, that was
But it was
really
just
cool.
kind of like drawn out. Oh, and then, wait, at the end, when he's saying goodbye to Leia, she's like, well, no, he says, I said I didn't know your parents, like, that wasn't true. She was like, who are my parents? And he goes, well, you're, like, brave and whatever and cunning and from your mother, and you're fearless and courageous from your father. That's not exactly what he says, but he says something along the lines of that, and, like, that was such a great moment. But the chemistry between Ewan McGregor and the actress that plays Leia, like, incredible.
Yeah, it really is. Those two were fantastic together. Vivian Lyra Blair, such a good job as young Leia and embodying what Carrie. It feels like this is what Carrie Fisher would have been as a young girl. So it's obviously a task to play a character who's already existing. It's an even bigger task when that actress has passed away, and they did such a good job with it. So Vivian Lyra Blair, I feel like really, really honored Carrie Fisher with this role. So
yeah,
Qui-Gon should have been there earlier. He should have been a main character of this show with how much he cared for Anakin and how much he literally died for Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially,
Absolutely.
He died knowing that Obi-Wan would train him. He died because of essentially a larger plot, but kept Anakin there with him. And yeah, I firmly believe if Qui-Gon lived, Anakin would not have fallen to the dark side. So I would have loved to have gotten to hear what Qui-Gon had to say about that. Because, yeah, there's really no reason for him to not have shown up to Obi-Wan. Yeah, Obi-Wan was not connected to the Force, but that doesn't mean he had... Not as connected, but that doesn't mean he wasn't connected at all.
Mm-hmm.
He still had a minor connection, and Qui-Gon still could have shown himself to him. Because Luke is not very connected to the Force when he first hears Obi-Wan in Episode 4. Or when he sees
not at
him,
all.
He just barely uses the Force in Episode 5 when he sees him. Right before he sees him. Because he barely uses the Force to get his lightsaber out of the snow in the Wampa Cave. And then he sees him... When does he see him? Is it right before that? Right after? It's right
was
around
on Dagobah,
that.
I thought.
No, he sees
him on Hoth?
Obi-Wan on Hoth and Obi-Wan tells him to go to Dagobah.
Interesting. I don't remember that. I haven't watched it in a while.
And Luke is barely connected to the Force then.
Yeah. There's just so much in the show that just wasn't right.
There's so much in the show that wasn't right.
Yeah.
There's so much that could have been done better. So much story that could have been done better. And what sucks is that everything that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau haven't been spearheading has not been great since Episode 7. And, okay, since Rogue One. Episode 8 was Episode 8. Solo was okay. 9 was dumpster fire. And this is really the first thing we're getting since 9 that is not related to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And it's yet again disappointing. And at this point, I don't have hope for other things they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have hope for... And look, I'm going to be honest. I never liked Andor's character in Rogue One. When I knew that Andor was getting his own show kind of after Rogue One, I didn't love that idea because I didn't feel like he needed it.
Me neither.
I'm sorry. I don't care about Cassian Andor that much from Rogue One. He was cool, but one, Jyn Erso's the main character anyway, but I don't know. I never really loved this character. I felt like his character just was all something about.
You know who I would
what.
love a movie about?
Who?
Or a TV show?
Blind Jedi.
You're thinking
the blind guy.
You're
who
thinking
trusts
of
the Force.
Ram Koda. Oh,
Yes.
no,
I'm thinking
the
of
guy from
Rogue One.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I was talking about from Solo. I can't remember her name.
Kira.
Yes, I would love a TV show about Kira. How she
'cause
came up into Crimson Dawn.
Yeah, that's like such a huge thing. Solo has more things that kind of should be explored. I feel like
Oh,
Kira's the
absolutely.
number one thing.
Rogue One.
I feel like Solo could
The
actually
whole
start some cool
point
things.
of Rogue One is that they were all throwaway characters, and then they died at the end.
They were throwaway characters who came together and literally saved the rebellion themselves.
Yeah,
By taking the
did.
chance, abandoning what the rebellion was doing by going to Scarif on their own and getting the plans to the Death Star. So yeah, I love Rogue One. It's a great movie. I love those characters. It is just a diamond in the rough of Disney Star Wars. Disney, unrelated to Dave Filoni Star Wars, and Kenobi. That's 20. That was what, 2016. Since then, we've gotten not much great stuff. Not really good stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like Andor is not going to have like any impact in the main story.
I don't care for it. I have never cared for it.
Yeah,
and I don't care for it. I have no hope for it now. I'm gonna watch it, but if it's disappointing, I'm at least going into it not expecting much.
true.
Kenobi coming back is one thing, and they've dropped the ball on that. And I don't even know if I want to see a season 2. I don't want to see them try to fix this because they're just gonna pull an episode 9.
Yeah,
Because that's when they tried to fix episode 8. So, like, I'm excited for Ahsoka. I'm excited for what they're doing with The Mandalorian Season 3, with the story of them retaking Mandalore from the Empire. But I'm not excited for Andor. I'm not excited for what's going to, I guess, the Acolyte, because I feel like, I don't think Dave Filoni is going to be as involved with that. I'm not excited for anything that is relating to Disney at this point that does not involve Dave Filoni.
yeah.
And for something that we both have waited so long for, to see Kenobi come back and have it go this poorly, I still am very upset with the lack, what feels like a lack of true dedication to this show. It feels like they did not put the effort they should have into this show.
Yeah. And it was just so up and down. It was so like
It was 4 episodes
back
down
and
for
forth
2 episodes of up, but you could really only go up from 1 through 4.
yeah.
And also, didn't mention this, the awful misuse of Hayden Christensen too. You bring Hayden Christensen back to be in the Darth Vader suit, but only use Hayden Christensen himself for one scene that is cut up through episode 5 as the duel. A fantastic scene, but you brought him back for that. And the scene of the broken helmet. And that one random vision, which you literally could have used a JPEG image of Anakin Skywalker from episode 3. They literally have it. The scene where he looks up. Oh, what's it? Yeah, the scene where he's going to kill the younglings and he looks through his hood angrily.
It's like exactly that.
It's the exact same thing. They could just put that in. Like, you didn't. I'm sorry. You brought Hayden Christensen back to make us all excited because Hayden Christensen was coming back. You didn't put him in the show. You didn't make him important to the story. You made him an important parallel for 1 episode.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they did. And it's 1 scene. It's 1 duel. It's a horrible misuse to bring to bring the actor back. I'm happy he was back. I'm happy we saw his face under the mask. I'm happy we got this 1 duel. But you have the actors. You had Liam Neeson. You had Hayden Christensen. Use them.
You even had
Do something
Ian
with them.
McDermott as the Emperor.
Yeah, he came back in the end too. Do something with them. Do something. Do anything with this show. That is kind of the end conclusion.
Rather than just running in circles for 4 episodes.
That is what the Kenobi comes down to. There was so much they could have done, and they did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did do didn't even feel like they put effort into. It's so disappointing, and
there was like no nuance to any of the show. Like, I don't know, it just seemed so like surface level with the writing and the moments and how like Anakin said, Vader said, I killed Anakin. Like, where's the depth in the line? Where's the story. It's just telling us what you think. Like, where's the like nuance in what was the other one I was thinking of? And or just like
The duel.
In the duel in Reva just bringing Anakin back, or in Qui-Gon showing up. Like,
there's
just like
nothing in this movie that makes me feel like they have actually seen Star Wars, that makes me feel like they care about Star Wars, that makes me feel like they care about the character interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, like, you can see it with Marvel. There are some things that they do really well with character interactions and getting them right in little things that how they would act towards each other. You see that sometimes it's missing, other times. But you
also, Anakin, Obi-Wan interacted with Leia so much. And she's like 10. So like she will remember him. But when she sends the hologram that you are my only hope, she says, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you served my father in the Clone Wars. But like, why would that be the first thing? I feel like it would be, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you rescued me twice from an Inquisitor and helped, like, save the rebellion.
Exactly. I guess you lose that line too now.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just get, like, so frustrated and / disappointed.
We're not even getting paid to do this, and we're thinking deeper into this than I feel like they did when writing this show.
Yeah, overall, I think the last 2 episodes were like 8.5, 9. But the show itself was like a 6.5. Because the pacing was just so off. It was so inconsistent.
I think the last 2 episodes are 7 at best.
Really?
Because episode 5 is my favorite episode of this show.
Mm-hmm.
I like 5 more than 6. I like the duel in 6. I like moments in the duel in 6. I don't like Qui-Gon showing up because it feels like he should have been there for the whole show. Now that he's been here at the end, I don't like Vader's line. I don't like Reva's character arc or character motivations in 6. But I think 5 is great.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 5 was the best episode.
I think 5 is. I think you know what? I think to where the story was in 5, up through 1 through 4, to where it was in 5, I think I could reasonably give episode 5 an 8, 8.5. That's a really good episode. We get a really good Vader. I hate that he lets.
Starting to sound like IGN.
Thank you. I love it. Love sounding like IGN. The only thing I don't like in episode 5 that I can think of is him opening up is him letting the second ship go. The ship that Kenobi and the other people in the base are on. It's the only thing I can think of that I don't like. But other than that, I remember texting you that I was really happy with episode 5, and I if they did this for something similar to 6 and really paid attention, it would have been good. It could have ended pretty well, and they just didn't pay attention. So I think that's all I've got to say on it. Overall, show is so massively underwhelming and okay that I honestly wish I just wish it wasn't made.
I think that's the perfect word to describe it. It was exactly okay. Like, that's my review of Kenobi. It was okay.
It was okay. It probably could have been worse. It very clearly could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay. If this show that I just watched was never made, I don't think we'd be missing out on much.
Yeah, I'm not better or worse for having seen this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just... Mm-hmm. Well, that happened.
Yep. And, well, that did happen. And so did this episode, as we are now an hour and a half in. It's a pretty long discussion. But to everyone who has stuck around and has listened through this, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here for what is now week 14 or so of the podcast.
Wow. It's really been that long.
Yeah, we started this a solid amount of time ago. It's been fun. Thank you all for listening, and we will figure out what we're going to talk about next week, because part of that at least is going to be talking about Miss Marvel and properly giving it its time to be talked about, because at the moment it's doing some pretty cool things.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch up this week.
Yeah, no, it is good. Mm-hmm. So on Wednesday too, when episode 4 comes out, we'll get to see that. So that's what we think of Kenobi. And we'll see you guys back here next week for at least our conversation on the first 4 episodes of Miss Marvel. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at darkside.deepdive. Follow us on Twitter at dsdeepdive. And go ahead and check out our new YouTube channel, Darkside Deep Dive. Same name, obviously. And see you on Monday at noon. Thanks for listening.
Catch you next week.